This is the West Michigan Sports Show, presented by Dasos Digital. Now, here's your host, Brandon Wirth.
Hello, folks. Welcome into the second half of our local sports hour. Here it's the West Michigan Sports Show presented by Dasos Digital. Brandon Wirth, glad you are joining us here, whether you're sticking around live over the airwaves after a special edition of Behind the Bulldogs, or if you are following us on a podcast platform, such as, but not limited to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, WBRN.com, and more. Great episode for you on deck today. We will break down the first week of boys basketball, what's coming up, as well as girls hoops will begin next week. So I'll have more scores to report on next week. So be sure you subscribe to don't miss out on that episode. And as well, to finish out the show, the question becomes, how is participation looking after COVID? How is it looking over the last couple years? Well, we got the answers for you, and some of them will really shock you on what sports are really taking off and what sports might be a little bit more down bad than you think. So stick around for the second half of the show. But first, we got to thank those that support our show. Those include, but aren't limited to, Johnson's Automotive, the Schuberg Insurance Agency, Quality Car and Truck Repair, Alter Care of Big Rapids, Paris Auto Sales and Service of Big Rapids, Motor the Mecosta Osceola Transit Authority, and the Mecosta Osceola Career Center. Thank you for your support of the West Michigan Sports Show. Let's get into the local sports scoreboard here from this past week. Obviously, a lot of boys hoops to break down, as well as we'll get more into the wrestling report as well later on here over the next couple weeks as we start to get some of the results in from the first couple matches individually as well as team. And so hopefully they report them online, makes it easier for me. If not, send us an email over here, news at Big Rapids Media, with all of your scores to report, and we'll make sure to get them here on the show. Starting back on Monday, November 25th, two local teams in action here from the conference. Starting off with the Newaygo Lions, they were hosting the Ravenna Bulldogs to start their 24-25 campaign, and unfortunately, it comes in the losing end of a 48-40 effort, so Ravenna takes down Newaygo to open the season there from Newaygo and M37. The other matchup in CSAA action, also a non-conference affair. Central Montcalm traveled to Vesterberg and got a victory. It was a close one, 50-46. The Hornets start off in the win column to begin this winter's campaign. Moving one day ahead, where the rest of the majority of the conference teams were in action, White Cloud started off the season over down US 10 in Baldwin, and boy, what a thriller that was, down to the wire in the extra frame overtime, and it was White Cloud on top of the Panthers 53-52, so a big win there for White Cloud to start the season on the road. How about Big Rapids? Big-time defensive statement to start the year. They take down Shepherd and revenge last year's loss. 48-34, the final score there at home for Big Rapids. Kent City went to Cedar Springs and struggled against the Red Hawks. 92-57 loss. Cedar Springs offense looks pretty legit, folks, so we'll see if they can continue that one on. Those following Big Rapids basketball, glad to hear that you enjoyed the first night broadcast. Myself, Blake Thomas. We will have the Cedar Springs Red Hawks later on into 2025, so be on the lookout for that matchup. Also, another matchup, it was Ithaca going to Central Montcalm to take on the Hornets, and it was all Yellow Jackets, 63-25. Massive win for Ithaca. Central Montcalm looks to rebound here upcoming next week. Tri-County and Lakeview, they duked it out in former CSAA conference foes, now in the different divisions, and it was Tri-County on top of Lakeview, 63-49, so the Vikings take down the Cats there in a former CSAA fair, as I mentioned earlier, and as well, in tradition fashion, McBain hosted Reed City to start the season. And unfortunately, tradition follows recent historical success for McBain as they literally and figuratively ramble over the Coyotes. 78-40. Dominant win there for the Ramblers over the Coyotes. Midland Bullock Creek hosted Chip Hills, and they got a victory at home as the Warriors fall to 0-1 on the season. 53-33 loss there for Chip Hills. And Molly Stanwood they hosted Comstock Park as Comstock travels to Morley, but unfortunately for the Mohawks, they would travel well as they pick up a 61-37 win. So the Mohawks start the season with a loss in the column. So those are the scores to report. We got some great matchups here upcoming for those that are looking for some local games to attend here this upcoming week. There are going to be some good ones, I'll tell you that for sure. Some to highlight here basically in the first week of December. And some games, they're not necessarily always going to be this early in the season. on just Tuesday and Friday for those following boys hoops as well as girls hoops. Some of them will be mismatched. And so just be aware of that as you're going along, trying to figure out, what days should I go to the game? Should I go on a Monday? Should I go on a Tuesday? Should I go on a Friday? Don't just assume it's just Tuesday and Friday. There's going to be games throughout the slate on different days. So just be aware of that if you're looking for games to go out to. Don't bank that it's just on Tuesdays and Fridays for varsity as well as Tuesdays and Thursdays for JV. They are kind of mixed out. And it starts on Monday, December 2nd. Some interesting matchups. How about Big Rapids opening the season hosting the Cadillac Vikings? That's going to be a fun matchup. There were some former regional foes, I should say, going to be duking it out. Always good to see those two teams play. Montague will be hosting Newaygo. That's an interesting matchup on paper there for girls hoops, as well as one lone boys matchup. Harrison, the Old Hornets, will be taking on the Chip Hills Warriors. That game is at 7:30 there from Harrison. They're in boys hoops as well as on the girls side. Also, another notable matchup, Lakeview and Howard City Tri-County will duke it out once again, this time in Lakeview to start girls hoops. Moving one day ahead, Tuesday, December 3rd, we'll have some interesting matchups. Big Rapids will be hosting Grand Rapids West Michigan Aviation Academy. The Aviators will be flying into town, maybe literally. Who knows what the weather we got going on there. Might not have a runway that's not covered in that white fluff at this point based on what we've seen in the weather. So that game will be on WBRN coverage starting at 6:30. Myself, Blake Thomas, will be bringing that call for you. Can't wait to get it to you. Also, some other games on deck. Tri-County looks to bounce back after a tough performance against Greenville last year. This time, it will be in Howard City. So those two teams will duke it out. Newaygo will be hosting Lowell. That'll be a fun one there in boys hoops. On the girls side, Ithaca will take on Central Montcalm, this time in Ithaca. And Reed City opens their season at home against the Ludington Orioles. How about that matchup from last year's postseason rematch? Will be on display there from the Den. That game is 7 o'clock. Just up the road there in Reed City. As well, Pine River will be going to Morley Stanwood. That game will start at 7 o'clock there from Morley. December 4th on Wednesday, Grant hosting Belding at 7 o'clock. That's going to be a fun matchup as well. Speaking of the Bucks and the Mohawks, they'll duke it out this time from Leroy on the boys' side. That'll be on a Wednesday at 7 o'clock on December 4th, as well as Sparta in girls hoops will be hosting Newaygo, and Cedar Springs as well will be hosting some local teams in wrestling. Want to make sure to highlight the wrestling tournaments coming up. Big Rapids will be headed over there. Also some teams going over to Montague, such as Newaygo and Grant. And there will be also some folks over at Reed City. So those are all 5 o'clock tournament matches. That's at least when those will begin, is at 5 o'clock. All the festivities and schedules will be at the school. But Reed City will also be hosting a tournament with Cadillac Clare & Co., as well as Chip Hills will be headed to St. Louis. So those are some other CSA wrestling matches on deck for that Wednesday. And then on Friday, the 6th, we got some good matchups for you as well. In hoops, Reed City hosting Newaygo to start the season. Girls varsity at 5:30, and Newaygo will be going to Reed City, obviously, for the varsity side at 7 o'clock. Obviously, they won't be traveling at different times, but those are when the two games will tip off. 5:30 for the girls, 7 o'clock for the boys, pretty much for all across the board. Morley Stanwood will be hosting Central Montcalm, 5:30 and 7 o'clock as mentioned. Lakeview will be hosting Kent City, as well as Grant will be hosting Tri-County. White Cloud will be still in non-conference action. They will be at home against the Shelby Tigers. So those two teams will duke it out, as well as Big Rapids will be traveling to Chippewa Hills to start their seasons over there in Remus, as well as Grant will host Tri-County, and Lakeview will host Kent City. So those are the matchups on deck here for this upcoming campaign. It's going to be really fun to watch all these teams duke it out as the winter sports season kicking off, folks, and we are excited to bring you that coverage. For those that have been asking, yes, the rundown is still continuing, folks. We just had a little break, obviously, with football season ending and obviously Thanksgiving week. We're just regrouping. The rundown is not going anywhere. We're going to bring that to you, so I'll help bring the coverage, as well as I have some great guests with me, whether it's coaches, whether it's players, whether it's broadcasting staff and co. We'll be sure to get those episodes out of the rundown for you, so you are up to date on basketball. We'll obviously spend quite a bit of time on boys, as we will be looking at the broadcast side for those games, but we'll also highlight girls as well as JV as we go along. So just though you don't think it's just boys varsity, yes, there's going to be a good chunk of it, as that is what people pay the bills for, but there will also be girls coverage as well as JV coverage. As much as I can get you, I will bring it to you over on the Rundown. Can't wait to bring that to you. Don't miss out, folks, on those episode drops. They will be on Big Rapids Daily News on YouTube. So go search it in your YouTube app, whether it's on your Roku TV, whether it's on your laptop, your tablet, your iPhone. Go onto the YouTube app or just search YouTube, Big Rapids Daily News and WBRN. They're basically both the same title, so you should hit those keywords and you can subscribe. You can see the old rundown of the football episodes on there. One of them is even pinned, and so make sure that you subscribe and you won't miss out on that episode to get it immediately when the episode drops. You can also follow along with Big Rapids Daily News on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or X/Twitter, so you don't miss out on those episodes. We'll have notifications and posts for you when those are dropped, and so if you follow along with those, you shouldn't miss an episode. And there's going to be quite a bit of great coverage for you here to keep you up to date on what's happening this hoops season. But if you want other sports as well, like maybe some indoor track, a little bit of wrestling too, hey, we got you covered. Even bowling, folks. Bowling's really taken off. So we're going to highlight it here on the show. So be sure to subscribe to this show. I'm going to take a break. We're going to pay some bills, let our commercials roll through. When we come back, a discussion on the population and attendance and participation across Michigan. Is it getting better? Or are there some sports that might be in trouble? We'll talk about it after this right here on WBRN.
Dazos Digital is a proud sponsor of the West Michigan Sports Show. They specialize in elements to help take your business to the next level with everything digital. Dazos Digital is different from traditional media companies and digital advertising agencies because of our attention to detail for our clients. We pride ourselves on the creative we build for our clients and the positioning we offer them within their target market. You can find out more information at DazosDigital.com or by contacting the Big Rapids Media Network.
All right, we're back here in the West Michigan Sports Show presented by Dazos Digital. Folks, you need the advantage in today's technologically advanced market. Trust the experts of DazosDigital.com to get you on the right track, whether it's social media presence, whether it's website design, whether it's in-depth audio and video streaming analytics. We can help you out. Me, as in all of our great staff here at Dazos Digital, I'm the mediator trying to push you over there. Great sponsor of the show, and they do some great work, especially, I can't stress this enough. If you and your business need a website and you need it with the right analytics to get yourself in the customer base, trust those guys. They are pretty nerdy. As in, I'm going to give you that explanation that they are nerdy. And I'm going to leave it at that because they're probably going to be like, we're not just nerds. Okay, we're conversational people too. But they do a great job. And so if you need help with a website design, any sort of that digital presence, trust those guys. They do a great job. Anyway, let's move forward here into a discussion on where are we in national participation as far as schools go. How do MHSAA and Michigan statewide schools do, whether it goes to the national population participation total based on state to state, as well as how we're seeing over these last couple years. COVID was definitely a dampening on sports, right? It just didn't have the same hit anymore that it used to. When it comes down to what COVID did to athletes, I can't really stress this enough. It was tough. As one that went through it, obviously not at the high school level, at the college level, it took the love out of sport. I knew some very talented, more talent than I ever had, that just simply left the game, left the sport, left all that life behind them just because of the dampening that COVID did, mentally and physically. And so it was a tough time. And the way that this state, not only, but the national population has rebounded has been incredible. It really was a tough time during COVID. And I obviously know people hate when you bring it up, and I hate bringing it up too, but I think it just goes to show where we were at as a society from 20 to 21, and now seeing the numbers we have going into 24, 25, incredible. So a lot of this data poll is from the MHSA themselves in the news page. You can read the whole article actually there from Jeff Kimberly. He did a great job there putting that story together. And definitely the number one thing, everything's improved, which is expected, right? Obviously, we're getting farther and farther away, so the numbers are continuing to climb. And I think that's definitely goes to show nationally, right? Where does Michigan rank among the 50 states? It's a great question. They rank 8th overall. 289,740 participants from 23 to 24. Incredible. That's amazing. We were ninth, I believe, eighth last year overall. Ninth last year, eighth this year. So we have climbed one spot, and we were actually, I believe, total, as far as the census is concerned, I believe 10th nationally. So those numbers obviously kind of vary just based on what leagues are taken into perspective, right? What's the necessary things like, homeschool as far as those leagues, if they're counted, and some of those things. So you can see a little discrepancy there, as well as just who straight up reports, right, on the census, because obviously we'd love the census to be from 100% participation, but obviously that's not the case. But I think especially when you look at something that's interesting, one of the sports that has taken off immensely, especially in the MHSAA, it's not been a sport for as far as the longest time. Bowling has taken off. I mean, this is incredible, right? 4,292 athletes. Incredible stuff that we've seen from the state of Michigan, right? I believe it is labeled here in the article, first time in at least 14 years, right, that we have had Michigan lead the nation in the participation of one sport, right? Boys bowling is leading nationally. Michigan is the state of Kingpin, right? It is the state, of the lanes. We own the bowling scene right now. And boys, on the girls' side, third nationally, as well as girls golf and girls tennis, also in that number 3 spot nationally. Boys golf is 4th. Wrestling is right now 7th. That is considerably with girls and boys numbers combined. Obviously, if we split those up, they'd be a little bit different. Girls competitive cheer is 8th. Boys lacrosse, this one actually surprised me. We are 9th nationally, and I feel like lacrosse, personally, obviously, I've been around Central and West Michigan for all my life, so obviously, I haven't been able to see some of the different, as far as, what's the sport of culture in different places, like, for us, it's small town football, basketball, baseball, right? Obviously, you have a little bit of running in there as well. You got wrestling, right? It's the main sports. But in some other places, you go over towards the thumb, you go down south. Like lacrosse is a much bigger deal. And but it definitely feels like it wouldn't necessarily be something that you would see as number 9 on the list, right? It feels like it should be theoretically a little lower, but it's still a little bit up there as far as boys lacrosse goes. And it's going to be a matter of time before girls lacrosse starts climbing up the charts as well overall. Some other trends to look at here as far as in the state rankings, participation for some of the sports in of itself, right? Comparing the rankings as far as what is the number 1, number 2, as far as what is considerably in participation. Volleyball right now is 5th, cross country 6th, basketball 7th, track and field as well as swimming tied for 8th, and then you have soccer as well in the top 10. So those ones are very interesting to look at. But here's the national participation number. This is crazy, right? This is a crazy number that blew my mind, right? How much participation nationally is in sport at the high school level? If you want to take a guess, take one now. You're going to be surprised. It is higher than you probably thought. Maybe it's a little lower than you think. For me, I thought it was lower. The number is 8 million. Over 8 million, right? The technical number is 8,062,302. How did that compare to a year ago? 2.7% higher, right? So that's an incredible mark. Now you might be thinking, what's the share, right? Boys, girls. Very interesting numbers here. 4.6 million boys, 3.4 million girls. You would think it would almost be a little bit more 50-50. But at the end of the day, right, we're still opening up some avenues for girls to compete in sport, right? Obviously, girls wrestling has kind of taken off. As I mentioned, it's only going to be a matter of time before girls lacrosse takes off. Really, you see the national spotlight now being hit on the sticks and nets. So you start to see that, and you're like, man, okay, we're going to see some more lacrosse coverage, right? The Premier League of Lacrosse is starting to take off. They just launched a women's league. You're going to see naturally that high schools are going to start jumping on it, especially the ones that have boys and they want to offer girls lacrosse as well. And so those numbers, both record highs, the boys and the girls numbers, which includes all 51 state associations. I know what you're thinking. Wait, in kindergarten, I was taught there's 50 states. You are correct. This also includes the District of Columbia. So that's the 51st state. 11-player football is the most popular boys sport of the year and went from 1,028,000 to 31,000. So that's the number one sport. A-Man has also increased by 3,000 in participation. That's a pretty impressive number all across the board. Also seen outdoor track and field going up, basketball going up, baseball, soccer, wrestling, cross country, tennis, golf, swimming, diving, all going up. As far as the state by state, right? You're probably wondering who's got the most. It's pretty much, if you were to go by overall population of the state, it's basically a pretty common share when you look at the ratio of how many people are available to how many can participate. They're all really kind of in the similar mark, but there are some, right, that are kind of, shooting up a little bit as far as that goes. Texas, obviously number one. Everything's bigger in the Lone Star State. They got 859,000 in participation in their state. California, not surprised, next behind 834,000. New York is in third, followed by Pennsylvania. This one might be a little shocking. Pennsylvania, 336,000. You're probably thinking, really? That's interesting. Ohio is number 4. Excuse me, not 4. 5. I just did 4, but 5. And then 6 is Illinois. Where's Florida? Florida's in 7. You would think that Florida, right? A lot of the media down there, a lot of high schools down there, but not as many people, right? That's kind of the interesting part. That shares a little differently. They are at under just 300,000 in perspective right now in the 7th slot. Where's Michigan? Right behind Florida, right there in the 8th national spot. We kind of mentioned that earlier as they jumped over New Jersey, as well as Minnesota wrap up the top 10 respectively. So very interesting, Mark. I was surprised at how high Pennsylvania and Ohio were. Illinois, you're kind of like, okay, Chicago Metro, sure, yep, we get it. And then you obviously look at Florida. Florida being that low actually really shocked me. Like, knowing how the culture is in sport in Florida, right? Anywhere below the Panhandle, when you go down past Jacksonville, you're going in over to Orlando, you're going over to Tampa, Miami, South Beach, right? Those places are just filled with all of these prep, high school, and obviously for those that are in the local community, right? Ferris State, and notably in football, right, has a pretty good recruiting trail down there in Florida. And so you kind of see, man, they got a lot of athletes for a lot of sports, right? And it's not surprising that Texas, California are 1, 2 respectively, but I was surprised that Florida was down there. They're in the number 7 spot. Good for Michigan. Hey, we're competing, folks, but we're not the number 1 in the Midwest. Darn it, Ohio. Darn you, Illinois, right? We're catching up to them slowly. We are ahead of those folks with the 50,000 lakes over there in Minnesota. So we are doing something right, I guess. Gophers, nah, Wolverines and Spartans. There you go. So it's great to see the participation going back up, especially since COVID, right? I mean, looking at the 2020-21 year, we had 244,000 high school student athletes participating in that year, right? With spring seasons canceled, with fall seasons, and just in in flux of as far as procedure process and how those things went about as far as getting athletes onto the competitive surface. But just take that in mind. We were at 244,000 people. And what was the number that I just said in Michigan just this last year? Incredible bounce back. It's incredible to see how much of that bounce back, 289. We lost almost a 5th, even a 6th of our sport population just with the pandemic, but we've hanged strong, right? Michiganders rise up, sports live on, and it's a big part of the culture, and it's a big part of why it makes this state great. And that's just biased perspective, non-biased perspective. I think Michigan's a pretty cool place, and hopefully you do too. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks for all that have tuned in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any episodes of this show in podcast. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and WBRN.com so you don't miss out on an episode if you can't join us live at 3:30 each and every Saturday. Have a great rest of your Thanksgiving weekend, folks. We'll chat with you on the weekend of December 5th. Going to be a good one. Can't wait to bring it to you here on News Radio WBRN.